X-Men 97 has done all the right things so far to get the brownie points from the fan, and the 5th episode is perhaps the most eventful episode so far in the series. It comes with everything, from loads of action to a couple of shocking deaths of major characters. And finally, we get closure for all the hints dropped in previous episodes about a complicated relationship between Magneto and Rogue. But how does the turn of events in this episode impact their relationship? And what is the role of Gambit in this love triangle? Did such an affair exist in the comic books as well? The questions are plenty, but in this video, we will bring you everything there is to know about this complex romantic history. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. How does X-Men 97 deal with the love triangle between Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit? In the early episodes of X-Men 97, it's already been established that Magneto and Rogue have a history. He even confronts her about their past, and she's clearly uncomfortable about the other members of the X-Men finding out about their previous affair. Presently, she seems to be attached to Gambit, and there's a clear chemistry between the two, even if they're not in a formal relationship. What adds to the drama in this complicated situation is that Gambit actually watches them together, and he's clearly not delighted about his love interest having second thoughts. The 5th episode finally explores the true depths of their relationship. After the UN decides to formally admit the mutant nation of Genosha, Magneto decides to fly there to attend the historic ceremony, along with Rogue. Gambit tags along, probably because he doesn't want the two of them to have some alone time. In Genosha, Magneto is invited to attend a meeting with the Interim Council, and Gambit and Rogue are taken for a tour of the town by their old friend Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler. In an opportune moment, Kurt even tries to convince Gambit about his relationship with Rogue, asking him not to give up on love. Meanwhile, Magneto is offered the position as the leader of Genosha, and he agrees on one condition. Rogue would remain there as well and serve as his queen. We realize that Gambit's insecurities are justified when he gets a close look at the conversation between Magneto and Rogue when he tells her about the proposition. She's hesitant at first, but eventually agrees, choosing Magneto above Gambit. Later, she even has a talk with Gambit where she tells him about her past with Magneto. This is where we're provided with the origin of their relationship, and Rogue tells Gambit how her evil mother took her to Magneto, suggesting that he would be the one to help her. Over the years, he groomed Rogue and taught her several skills, including the art of realizing her true powers. Soon the couple accidentally discovered that Magneto's electromagnetic powers protect him against her fatal touch. There are hints dropped in this conversation that Magneto and Rogue were in a brief and passionate relationship before she left him after realizing the complications that come with their togetherness. However, the whole point of sharing all this with Gambit is to tell him about her decision to accept Magneto's proposal. Gambit tries to convince her otherwise, but seeing that she's determined about her decision, he promises to be there for her as a friend and walks away like a true gentleman. Later in the night, during the grand gala event, the fatal attraction of Rogue for Magneto is revealed further. She shares an intimate dance with him, and many of the onlookers are shocked by their passion. Even Gambit is uncomfortable and pained by this new romance, and leaves the scene. Magneto and Rogue even share a passionate kiss, but then she tells him how Gambit was right. Wait a minute, does that mean that Rogue has finally made up her mind about going back to Gambit? And is this the end of the road for her budding chemistry with Magneto? We will never get clear answers because the stage is soon thrown into chaos after a surprise Sentinel attack on Genosha. How does Gambit's death set up things for Rogue and Magneto? The last part of the episode comes with the biggest shock, and we see Magneto falling to the giant Sentinel after fighting valiantly. He does his best to protect Gambit and Rogue and the other mutants, but eventually a massive explosion, and the analysis from a Sentinel about an Omega-level threat being eliminated suggests that Magneto may have fallen. In a fit of rage, Rogue charges at the Sentinel, but Gambit pushes her out of the way and leads a solo attack. It ends fatally for him, but he also manages to take down the Sentinel threat along with him. The final moments of the episode show Rogue grieving over the lifeless body of Gambit in an emotional scene, and he seems to have undertaken the ultimate sacrifice in order to protect the love of his life. Now, although Magneto is seemingly dead as well, we're never shown his dead body, and as a powerful Omega-level mutant and the new leader of the X-Men, you can expect him to have enough plot armor to survive. You can almost be sure about him coming back in the next episode. But Gambit's death, on the other hand, seems more certain, unless some time-traveling trick manages to revive him. So, in all likelihood, there will be a situation where Magneto and Rogue will now have to deal with the loss of Gambit impacting their relationship. She already seemed to have chosen Gambit over him, but now with Gambit out of the picture, things might happen differently. And maybe she'll also reconsider her new position by his side, if he still remains as the leader of Genosha. On the other hand, the narrative can also align with the comics, and if that's the case, then the relationship between Rogue and Magneto will never have a happily ever after. What is the origin and fate of their relationship in the comics? X-Men 97 set the stage for delving into the affair between Magneto and Rogue right from the second episode in the two-part premiere. While many were taken aback by these developments, such a situation was not unheard of among the comic book enthusiasts. Even though Gambit is the usual partner for Rogue in the comics, there are plenty of instances where Magneto has been involved with her. In order to get to the bottom of this unlikely pairing, you have to look back at the origins of Rogue. Before she joined the X-Men and embraced the life of a hero, she was part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, led by her adoptive mothers, Mystique and Destiny. Magneto has been involved with the Brotherhood for a very long time. They interacted a few times, but the romance was yet to blossom. In fact, surprisingly enough, the first case of them falling for each other happened after she had become a member of the X-Men. In the Savage Land story arc from Uncanny X-Men, Magneto saved her life, and a grateful Rogue allied with him as they handled the danger of the Savage Lands together. She even lost her powers at the time, which made her vulnerable, and it also meant that she could touch him without the fatality, and they seemed to have an emotional connection that went beyond the simple physical love, and she even encouraged his redemption. There are a few intimate moments between them, but the true extent of their affair is left up to the interpretation of the reader. After she got her powers back, she even saved his life as payback. But Magneto went back to his old villainous ways. Both were distressed as they parted ways, but that was the end of their relationship for then. Later, Rogue even had a brief relationship with Magneto's confused clone Joseph, and the resemblance reminded her of their times together in Savage Land. By this time, she was already with Gambit, who obviously did not approve of this growing romance. This love triangle was resolved just like the X-Men 97 episode, when Joseph sacrificed himself, and only two people remained. In X-Men Legacy, Magneto was shown in a redemption arc, and the two were drawn to each other once again. There was no stability this time as well, but their relationship continued, and Magneto even proposed to her for marriage. However, she refused, because she feared that she would be manipulated by him in times to come. She did not rule out a future relationship, but eventually she went on to marry Gambit. Although X-Men 97 has introduced some subtle changes in the circumstances and characters, the nature of the complicated love triangle has been retained. Magneto and Rogue were not a perfect couple in the comics, nor was the bonding between her and Gambit stable enough, and we believe that what you see going ahead in the series will be a reflection of this theme. Did Rogue ever marry Magneto in the comics? Yes! Even this has happened in the comics in a story arc, where Magneto is the leader of the X-Men and Professor Xavier is dead. Although she is unofficially seeing Gambit, she develops strong feelings for Magneto. When Magneto and Gambit are attacked by Wolverine, Rogue decides that she cannot save both of them and saves Magneto instead. This leaves Gambit dejected, and even though he survives, he leaves the X-Men. Going ahead, Magneto and Rogue get married, and even have a son together. However, it's not a happy ending yet, because Apocalypse and his forces take away Magneto and their son Charles. After a lot of thrilling action, she finally manages to take down Apocalypse alongside Magneto, and they save their son as well. Rogue has her family reunited, and she fights to create a better world for her son to grow up in, following the devastation caused by Apocalypse. There are already some similarities between this story arc and the one unfolding in X-Men 97, such as Magneto being the leader of the X-Men, and Gambit out of the picture following his death. Although it would be a far-stretched prediction at this stage, there may be a slight chance that you see the two getting hitched in future episodes, if the makers decide to adapt the narrative further. How is Magneto able to touch Rogue? Rogue's primary mutant ability is to touch an individual and absorb their life essence and powers. In most versions, she cannot turn this ability off at will, and this means that anyone touching her risks death, and in the least will be knocked unconscious immediately. However, there have been multiple explanations in the comics regarding how Magneto can touch Rogue without the fatality associated with her touch. The most popular theory is that he can create a protective magnetic field, which puts him out of harm's way. This means that he's not really touching her skin, but they still get to feel the pleasures of physical intimacy. In another disturbing story arc, it's been suggested that Rogue absorbs some of the powers of Magneto's daughter Polaris, which meant that the magnetic powers of Rogue and Magneto negated each other. Clearly, the ability to touch someone for someone who cannot touch anyone is incredibly special, and it's not surprising that she's always drawn toward Magneto for this reason. Marvelous verdict. X-Men 97 hits a home run with the right dose of emotional drama. X-Men storylines have never been just about a few superheroes fighting villains in action-packed adventure. The narrative captures a lot more, ranging from the social struggle of the X-Men against human-hating people, to their personal relationships, and how their past trauma impacts their intimate affairs. X-Men 97 has done well in keeping the balance alive in the 5 episodes so far. And from the complicated situation between Jean Grey and Cyclops, to the tragic love triangle involving Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit, the stories have been perfectly set up. Gambit's death in episode 5 comes as a shocker, and even we're clueless about the future of Rogue and Magneto, assuming that he will be back soon. Let's see whether love triumphs over tragedy, and we have to play the waiting game to find out if Rogue will find her happy ending. Don't forget to tell us in the comments below about your thoughts on this complex love triangle, and also let us know what you think will be the fate of this affair. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone!